Hi, Dr. Garima here. Yeah, I'm recording this video after almost a week's break. It's another of Australian scenario based questions, and I'm recording this like literally it's 12 midnight. I'm not sleepy because yesterday night my son kept me awake most of the time. He got a mild case of gastritis. It was his first, it was our first. So I was kind of freaking out because on and off he was touching his tummy and he was like, it's hurting, and then he used to calm down. So basically, I slept in the afternoon today, so I just can't sleep now. So I'm like, might as well make good use of this time. He's already sleeping now and shoot a nice video. So, yes, what happened in the last week is the results came out, the September 2024, and it is very heartbreaking, honestly, and unfortunately, a lot of candidates could not clear, which was very sad. But then it wasn't surprising, like I feel sad for the candidates that, and it's not like they failed miserably. All of the students that were appearing, like so many of them that they were discussing in the group, that people all around were just failing in one cluster. So you have given like four papers and you flunked in one, and it's not like the rest of the papers that you flunked in were bad scores. It was A, B, A, your A, C, like that. So, like scoring straight A's in three cluster and a C in one, and then flunking the exam, which means that after 6 months you have to give the entire paper again, is very traumatizing. Not only that, there were some candidates who in the March exam flunked in cluster 1 but cleared all the three clusters. But now they flunked in cluster 2 but cleared the cluster 1. So they are even more exasperated because, they have a valid point that if we could clear the first cluster, we have the same knowledge, then how can you flunk is in the same cluster now but clear in the other one. So a lot of like sadness was there. We already knew that the passing percentage would be 25%, right? The ADC itself mentions it, but then they have reduced drastically even that 25% to, I guess, less than 5%. It's sad, but then it is what it is, like don't go in with high hopes in clearing in first attempt is what I would say. Like go take it as a journey, how you learn to walk by falling multiple times. The same thing, take this exam as. Why? Because they also have to regulate how many dentists they clear. They cannot just keep on clearing everybody who's appearing, because then it would be too much saturated market of the dentist, and their own Australian citizen dentist would complain, I guess. I'm assuming that. And it's a money making exam, so I've discussed on various videos about it. What saddens me is that ADC doesn't give you the result, like why you flunked a particular cluster. Like you don't know your mistake. That's a very sad part. So it's like gambling, but don't be upset. If it's your journey, then keep attempting and someday you will clear. I know a couple of close friends who have attempted part 1 3 times and who have attempted part 2 3 times, and after like a rigorous 2.5 years then they have cleared the exam. But yes, they were single. They did not have any responsibility. They collected enough money and they stayed at their sisters' or brothers' places in Australia where they didn't have to do any expense. But you may not be so lucky as them to have all these situations. Most of you are either just married off in Australia and want to start making money of your own profession, or any other reasons, or you're from other country who want to migrate to Australia but are a practicing clinician and have a family to look after, And it's so frustrating when your plans just cannot move ahead because of all these situations. And then there is another category of people whose visas are expiring or are not getting visas even after, clearing part 1. So there's so many steps at which, you're just stuck and you cannot do just anything about it. And unless you clear the exam, you cannot practice as a dentist in Australia. So, and it involves such a huge amount of money, which is another story altogether. So, again, my suggestion to anybody new who's watching this video is that please do not migrate to Australia thinking I will go there and then clear the exam, because then you wouldn't have any job in hand of your satisfaction. You might be working some menial jobs which you will not be happy as. So, and getting frustrated because their taxes are there, you'll be paying those taxes, working long hours, then appearing for ADC exam. And ADC part 2 is grueling, like it's really grueling. You need to just dedicate time and energy over that. Yes, of course, once you clear the exam, your life is pretty much sorted. So why don't you clear the exam from your own country? Just travel to Australia to give the exam and come back. And once you clear the exam, then you migrate. But many people don't think about this, and then they suffer and make everybody around them suffer. So anyways, my heart goes out to those candidates who could not clear the exam. May you have lot of courage, faith, and may God do what is best for you. And if Australia is indeed your journey, then keep attempting. So anyways, coming to one of the second last questions of this mock 2, it's again a prostho question. It's a prostho bonanza week going on. And I also had requests about surveyor, how to do that, because in cast partial denture, you're required to do surveying. I know, as a dental graduate, as an intern, you don't even see a surveyor. Forget about making a cast partial denture. So it's very complicated to think. Even though you read, because you have not attempted it, it is really difficult to, have the memory and understanding of how a surveyor works, how you are supposed to do it, and what exactly it helps you out with. And then fabricating a cast partial denture, giving a design to the lab technician, knowing what are the parts of the cast partial denture. But anyways, my previous videos, the previous scenario based questions of this mock 2, I have covered almost everything except surveying. I covered the classification, I have covered the parts of the CPD, and almost like half an hour videos on each. So I don't think so you should be having any confusion anymore. If you still feel the need to know more about the subject, you can go back to those videos, and I have taken snippets of other videos who have explained this concept very nicely. Go to their channel and go through the videos, you will understand it. Once you have that basic information, then you can apply it to the scenario based questions, and then you can actually answer it very nicely. So anyways, today's question, let's go ahead and solve it. A patient presents at your clinic. He has an edentulous lower jaw, full lower jaw edentulous. You have just taken an impression to fabricate a lower partial denture for him. You are aware of the importance of surveying and designing the prosthesis. You are doing the surveying of the poured cast. So you have taken an impression, you have poured a cast, and you do understand that the cast has to be surveyed. Now, what does surveyor mean? Why am I surveying the cast? How is it going to help me? And while surveying, what points I'm going to look at? So for this purpose, I need to know what are the parts of a surveyor, how do I survey the cast, and how does it help me exactly so that the prosthesis that I design lasts longer, because it's an expensive prosthesis. Cast partial dentures are expensive, So before I jump onto the question, the scenario based, like the sub questions, I'm going to play a short video which will give you an idea of what exactly a dental surveyor is. But feel free to pause the video go back, study more, and then come back. Okay.
Dr. A.D. Fortunati, he understood this necessity. He understood that we cannot rely on the arbitrary method of viewing the dental cast at the arm's length and guessing the locations of mechanical undercut. So he created something that is known as dental surveyor in 1918. So basically the instrument he created was a parallelometer. So what is a parallelometer? That is an instrument by which we can determine the parallelism of surfaces. Okay. So Dr. A.J. Fortunati introduced the dental surveyor in 1918, and the first company to commercially manufacture it was in 1923 by the Ney Corporation. So now we have an idea what is a surveyor. It is an instrument by which we can locate and delineate the contours and position of the abutment teeth and the associated structures before we design the RPD, that is the removable partial denture. Now here we have a diagrammatic representation of a dental surveyor, and most commonly there are three types of dental surveyor: the Ney surveyor, the Jelenko surveyor, also known as the Wills surveyor, and the Williams surveyor. So just remember this like Ney, Wills, Williams, right? So the basic difference between these three is in the horizontal arm. Let's see where is the horizontal arm here in this picture. This is the horizontal arm. Now in the Ney surveyor, this horizontal arm is fixed. In the Wills surveyor, that is the Jelenko surveyor, the horizontal arm can swivel. And in the Williams surveyor, this horizontal arm is split and it is jointed. Now coming to the parts of dental surveyor, we have the surveying platform. Basically it is a metal base that is parallel to the floor, and on this surveying platform we have the surveying table. The surveying table basically consists of a base and a cast holder. So on this cast holder you can hold your cast and decide the tilt of that cast. If we look closely, we can see that it has a ball and socket joint so that the cast can be tilted in all the directions. We have the vertical arm, we have the horizontal arm, and this was the horizontal arm we were talking about. The difference in the Ney, Jelenko and William was in this horizontal arm, remember? And then the surveying arm, which extends vertically from the horizontal arm, and we can move it up and down vertically. Then this is the mandrel, which holds the various surveying tools. Now coming to the surveying tools, there are various kinds of tools, and these are the analyzing rod, carbon marker, undercut gauges, and wax trimmer. I repeat, analyzing rod, carbon marker, undercut gauges, and wax trimmer. What is analyzing rod? So this is the first tool you'll be using. It is a metal rod cylinder in shape, and it will contact the convex surface of the teeth, and with this we can locate the height of contour of the teeth. Also, it is known as the paralleling tool. Then we have the carbon marker. Basically it resembles the lead pencil. So with the help of the carbon marker, as the name suggests, marker, you can mark the survey line. It is circular in cross section in the Ney surveyor and triangular in Jelenko surveyor. Then we have the undercut gauges, with the help of which we can locate the retentive undercuts on the abutment teeth. So there will be a rod that will be contacting the height of contour of the tooth, and then we will be having a circular projection at the end that will contact the undercut, and it comes in various sizes: 0.010, 0.020 and 0.030 inch gauge. Then wax trimmer. Now blocking out the cast will be dealt in another lecture, why do we block out and all, but just remember that after blocking out, when we need to trim the excess wax from the blockout areas, we use the wax trimmer. So these were the parts and the accessories of dental surveyor. I hope you found the video helpful.
So yes, back to the question. So I hope you have now understood what are the parts of a surveyor, how it is held, where do you put the cast, and what is the first instrument that you will use in the surveyor. Okay. Of course, there are more videos on it. It's going to become a very long lecture kind of a thing if I go on to the other videos, but I would suggest, if you are liking the concept of surveying and you have understood some part of that. Was a beautiful explanation, by the way, by that doctor. You can go to her other lectures and read through it or go through some SlideShare presentations. So anyways, just to give you a brief explanation about the surveyor that we did, let's go on to the question and see how we can solve it. What is not an objective of this procedure in the process of partial denture? So just summarizing the question, you have surveyed, you have poured a cast and you're going to do survey to form a cast partial design. So what the question is asking, what is not an objective of the surveying procedure of partial design? Not an objective, okay? So that means the rest of them should be an objective. Finding the optimum path of insertion. Yes, it is an objective. Location of undercuts and abutment teeth. Yes, definitely. If you don't know the undercuts, how will you block it? And if you don't block it, you can't make the cast partial denture. Location of soft tissue undercuts. Yes, again, that's a part. Deciding the design and material and the position of class. That's the most important part. Like, that's one of the most important objectives. None. So A, B, C, D are indeed objectives. So none is out of question. So I'm going to go with the option none. Which of the following areas cannot be determined by survey analysis of partially edentulous cast? Cannot be determined means in the surveying, what are the areas which you cannot see? So that means the rest of the options would be the areas that you can see, you know. So let's see, here we are going to choose the option by elimination. Areas to be revealed as blocked out to properly location, you can see those areas. Areas to be shaped to properly location, yes, you can also see the areas where you have to shape, like if a tooth has an excess bulge, you can see it in the podcast, right? So you know where to shape it. Areas used for guiding planes, of course you can see it, and that's what will help you to determine the path of insertion and the path of exiting the appliance. Areas used for retention and areas used for support. Okay, now here you can be confused in option D and option E. Now, areas used for retention. Retentions are usually the undercut areas. Remember, the clasps and the eye bars, they go for retention. Support. What is support? Support is your rest seat. You cannot determine that on the surveyor. Why? Because, example, the tooth had an inlay or a crown or a nice composite filling on the occlusal portion of the tooth. Now you have just taken an impression, you have just poured the cast and you are just seeing the poured cast. Would you be able to make out if a composite restoration has been done or an amalgam restoration has been done on the tooth on which you have to do the the rest seat? Unless you clinically examine, you won't be 99% able to know on the podcast if a composite restoration has been done. Now, why that is important? Because that would determine whether you want to make a rest seat on the restoration, or you want to replace it with an inlay, or you want to choose some other tooth because you don't want to damage the filling, anything. So that you cannot see on the surveying cast, and hence the areas used for support cannot be determined by surveying analysis. Understood the concept? If not, pause it, go back 2 minutes and hear my explanation for this. Okay, what tool should you use first with the surveyor? That video gave the answer. If you were focusing, it was analyzing rod, correct? Wax trimmer is when you put the wax, that comes at the last. Carbon marker again later, undercut gauge also later. Analyzing rod is the first instrument that you will always use with the surveying cast. What is the minimum depth of functional lingual sulcus required for a lingual bar? Perfect. I really loved this book called as Stewart. It's a red color book. It was this thick, but I only read the first 100 pages or so because that was it for me, which had the classification systems and the different types of direct retainers, indirect retainers, and the saddles designs, those horse shape and etc. And I remember reading that so nicely, and there particularly it was mentioned that the minimum depth of a functional lingual sulcus required for a lingual bar is 8 mm. So imagine you are giving a cast partial denture where teeth are present. So because teeth are present, alveolar bone will be there and bar will go below. So when it goes below the teeth, it's very comfortable to the patient. But in scenarios where suppose the lower anteriors are a little wobbly, like grade 1 mobile, and then you have to give this because the bone is already shrunk, you don't have 8 mm space, then you give a lingual plate. You understand? That lingual plate is another type of design, but then it is seen between the gaps in the lower teeth, and it becomes difficult to clean also, and it's really more bulky. The lingual bar is more thinner. It's like 4 mm in width, but it requires at least 8 mm of sulcus depth. So remember this measurement you'll have to remember. You can go back and open the Stewart book, and in your notes book, which I always say you have to maintain one, because certain things you just have to memorize. There are dental concepts, it's no logic, like it's what it is, and that is how it's been made. So this is one of those questions where 8 mm has to be memorized. Now place the following in order you should follow while designing a partial denture. Always, always, always you will start with the basic framework of the saddle. Unless you have the base plate design, the rest of them will not fit through. So the first word you should see a saddle, and you should focus on that option. Where do I see saddles? It's just option C. Now example, there were 2 more options saying saddles, then I would choose those 2 options and go ahead and see which comes next. So the ideal sequence, again, this is a thing that you should write down, but if you read more presentations on cast partial denture, automatically you'll remember the sequence. Saddles, support, which is the rest seat, retention, reciprocation, bracing, connector, and at the last, indirect retention. Indirect retention is an extra form of retention which you usually give the most away from the fulcrum line, right? We discussed about it in the last video. So here the option C becomes the answer. I'm not even looking at the other options because they don't start with the basic framework of saddles. Understood? So I hope this was clear, concise, precise, and it's interesting, it's not boring as we think cast partial dentures would be. I think all of you all should at least once in your lifetime should do a cast partial denture, just for the satisfaction of making one and feeling like a complete dentist. Acrylic dentures are easier, but cast partial dentures are the real deal. So do one, manifest that you get to do one. So do, and then leave me a comment in the YouTube once you have done it, how you felt about it. And of course, I look forward to your comments on this video as well. You know how much I love reading them, and I do respond to all of them. It keeps me motivated to shoot more videos. So yeah, that, and just discussing a bit about my life, because I do get asked questions. The rest of the candidates who just wanted to read the question can leave this video. The others who just contribute in knowing my life and also share their life, because I also learn from you all. It was a very turbulent last week actually. Suddenly, so first of all, on the personal front, my son got, like I said, a mild case of gastritis. By God's grace, it's way better now. Like 5 days ago, we had to rush to him in emergency at night at 11 p.m. because he just kept on to holding his stomach and started screaming in pain, like on and off. It wasn't continuous or colicky. So we took him, and that day he vomited everything he ate, which was like freaking me out. So the doctor calmed me down, and the worst part is when you are a medical, you think of so many different diagnoses, and you know the signs and symptoms of all, and then you start freaking out more. What if this is all happening and that is happening? So it gets overwhelmed. But I've learned to shut my brain, that medical brain, when anything happens to my son, and I'm like just a mother, and I pretend like I don't have any medical knowledge, and I just take him and I just listen to the pediatrician of whatever they want to say. Because if I start using my brains, then, like I mentioned, I'll go overboard. So yeah, the pediatrician kind of calmed me down, and he just said, let's take an antiemetic, and he just put a half tablet of ondansetron under his tongue, and he was fine, and then he slept off. So yeah, so on and off that was going on, and today finally, touch wood, he's okay, but still, very mild. He's like a little pain, and then I'm okay type. So otherwise, he's fine, no fever by God's grace. That was happening, and many lessons learned in my professional life this week. See, when you work, like when I work, the way I work is I work for dentistry. Like, I don't work for any corporate boss. Like, I freelance in 3 clinics, and I've set days and I've set patient base, and I go and I do my work. Now, in one of those places, it was like a Spanish management before, which I had joined in 2021, and the management just changed. So of course, their policies and their ethics are way different than what it was before, where we were very upfront and straightforward. But of course, different management have different things. So I was getting a little sentimental because I knew that with their policies I cannot continue, because either I change myself as a person, which I refuse to, because I know what I do is correct, because I work for dentistry. Like I said, I don't work for any particular person. And in corporates, eventually then they want to work, they want you to work for them and do what they say instead of what exactly should be done. So yeah, so I made up my mind to leave that place. It just came as a shock to me as well when suddenly so many changes happened. But then it is what it is, you just have to move on. But I always believe, even when you like something and you're very comfortable at that place and everything is going just so fine, perhaps when such things happen and you feel so sad and bad about it, because nobody wants a good thing to end, right? God always has a better door opened for you. And that's what happened. Like, I was thinking, wow, like I have my other 2 clinics running, and I was like, it's fine, like it's nothing that has happened to me professionally. I'm choosing to leave one place. But then from the second place that I'm working, I got more cooperation and support by itself. Suddenly the management out there were like, doctor, why don't you come for more days? And I'm happy with that place also, and that's actually just across my home, so it's very easier for me to go. So I was like, okay, so I was like, maybe this is better for me. So I'm not going to resist. I trust my instincts. So if my instincts are telling me you had a good time there, now it's time to leave without changing your core ethics, automatically God opened just a second door. And I was like, wow, you should just not resist. I know you're just comfortable at one place, but sometimes a change is needed in the bigger picture of God's plans. So yeah, like I moved on pretty quick, like 2 days, and I'm already looking forward to starting more days in the second place. Already opened up my schedules, and I've moved on over that other place. So I started the first place in 2021, and now it's 24 end. So almost 3.5 years, how they went, and so many people had changed during that tenure. Like, it's a beautiful clinic, but almost 10 doctors came and left, and right now I'm the most senior most person there. Like, and even I was surprised because wow, I'm like, age wise I'm younger than the people out there, but yeah, chronological wise, I'm the longest lasting doctor out there. But now I guess it's time to change. So things will happen in your life too. Don't be upset about it. Like, if you feel some good thing which was going is ending, probably God wants to give you a better thing, which you don't see at right there and there. But one door has to close before another one opens. So if your faith and intent is good, the universe will already chart out a plan for you. Just don't resist. Just go with the flow. That's what I've learned. So yeah, emotionally I was like on a roller coaster. But yeah, like it was nice. That's how you learn, and I'm sure when I grow older, and there would be a time when I will have to teach my son about my own experiences, I'll have for sure this one to give it to him, and I'm sharing it with you all. Please share your experiences, your professional life learnings as well. And thank you so much again. Bye bye. Good night.